everybody be here, so all the angels have to be here also.
You need a minyan?
We have a spiritual minion, but I would have liked to have a physical one also. Uh-huh.
Many people are recuperating from Shavuot.
Yeah, last time I was here, it was full.
Okay, we scared them away. Okay, so listen, it's an important
Never
class.
was preparing for Shavuot, and now they're like, okay, now
I know, they'll start coming.
They all got the Torah.
They'll start coming now. This is in the meantime. The door is locked, so somebody's just trying to get in.
I just came in. The door was open.
But it's now what?
Yeah, it's open. He's standing by the door.
Okay.
Waiting for people to come in.
Okay, so the situation is like this. There's a book called Inner Space. I have 3 of them here, besides my own. My own here, 2 of them. I have this, and I have this. You don't have one, and you don't have one, right?
Right.
So hand this to them. Chapter 10. Chapter 10 is on page 78. When Rabbi Kaplan gave over these classes in his home, so this was very important. Now he's starting to explain the system of Kabbalah, give you certain terminology. He's prepared us already. He's given us that there are 4 main worlds, and there's one world on top of those worlds, which is almost like the context within which all of these 4 worlds operate. There's not 4 worlds, really. It's one big, big universe with many levels. Within each world, there are sfirot. There are different attributes that Hashem uses, certain energies, almost like fine-tuning of how he interacts with the world. So within the higher world, there's 10 sfirot. And then the Ari says, really, there's not just 10 sfirot of Atzilut, and then another 10 sfirot of Bria, another 10 sfirot of Yetzirah, and a 10 sfirot of Asiyah. There's only really 10 sfirot. But the lower universes dress up upon the higher universes. So it's only always going to be 10 sfirot, 10 modalities, 10 modes with which Hashem interacts with us. It's all his light. They're like different colors, but it's all one light. And how much it's going to be filtered in any particular place, at any particular level, it's all going to be more covered the farther down you come towards us. And the farther up you go, it's going to be much, much more obvious, revealed that there's only one light. So he's introduced us to these ideas. He's also told us that there's 5 levels of souls. So 5 levels of worlds. The 10 sfirot themselves break up into 5 levels. Not for the details right now, that's unimportant, but the idea is that it's a system of 5, even though there's 10 sfirot, it actually also naturally breaks up into 5. Why there's 5 Chumshei Torah. It's all part of how Hashem sets up things according to the letters of his name, which is the 4-letter name. But on top of the name is what's called the apex of the Yud, the Kutzoshel Yud, and that's the 5th level, which is really the level that precedes all of the levels. So he set up a system, a universe that's based on the idea of a ladder, that the farther down you come, the more he's hidden and the more his light is filtered and covered so that a physical world can exist and that man can have free will, and that we should be able to, through our our conscious awareness see the presence of Hashem despite the fact that it's covered. On the higher worlds, you don't have that kind of test. In the higher world, it's only revealed. But the point is to make a planet Earth, to make an Earth where everything is more covered, more distant, more difficult, where there's tests. So all this is based on the teachings of the Zohar and of the Ari, what I'm saying. And this is the place from which the Baal Shem Tov and the Ramchal and the Gra and all of the great teachers, this is the place from which they began their understanding, these basics of the Kabbalistic system. Again, the main point being that Hashem might dress up and somebody else knocked. I'm sorry to bother you. That Hashem might dress up in many garments, and sometimes he could be sitting next to you and he's dressed in he's dressed in somebody who's bothering you. Either it's a bank clerk or a taxi driver or a bus driver, or something negative, and you just don't want this. You don't want anything to do with it. You'll find out later that was also Hashem. Yeah, that's the way I do things. I don't always tell you it's me. In the prayers, the Ari describes that we go up through Shachrit, through a number of levels, until we get to the Amidah, into the standing prayer. We stand before Hashem. Before that, we sit down and we say Shema Yisrael. We cover our eyes. We close our eyes and cover our eyes. Most people do this, and some people do this, with the name of Hashem engraved in your fingers. You have the Shin here in the middle. You have a Dalet here as your thumb, and you have a Yud as the Yud. Shaddai, Misha Amar La'olamo Dai, he who said enough to his world. He said enough. And the word world, the word olam, Amar Dai La'olamo, he said die. Enough to the olam. The olam is the word, is also the word for he'elim, for hiddenness. So Hashem, in making the world, he made a world that hides him. He's the Melech HaOlam, the king who hides in his world. No. He can sit next to me. Come sit next to me. Are you going to sleep? Okay. Sweet dreams. So go back and do a little bit of a review of the whole thing. We just started though. We're building up to start chapter 10 of Inner Space. Now chapter 10 is a major shift. So I thought I'd give a 5-minute introduction. If that bothers you back there, tell me and we'll close it. But we need some air. So as we were saying, if you go up the ladder of creation, the higher up you go, the more you go up above the mountains and above into the higher atmosphere, and you just see how amazing the way Hashem made the universe, and you just see that it's clearly made by a creator. And then you go up, even above that, until you come to higher levels. You go up an elevator, and every floor you come out, you understand much more. You're going up the mountain, you're seeing much more of the whole thing below you, down below. Everything opens up. The higher up you go, the more you understand everything that's going on down below. To the extent that the Ari says that you get up to the Amidah, the top of the Shachrit, and that's when you stand up, just before you stand up for the Amidah, you stand up and you say, Tehilot la'el elyon go'alam, Baruch hu u'mivorach. Moshe uvnei Yisrael lecha anu shira. So there's certain words there that you say that you should stand up and you say tehilot. And the Ari says that at that moment you're standing up because you're coming to the presence of what's called Abba and Ima. So mother and father. Now, this, in order just to understand it simply, whatever he means, but to simplify it, it's like you go to the top of a mountain, you meet an old couple. And they smile at you and they welcome you and they say, "Oh, it's so good to see you." And you say, "Yeah, it was really hard to get here." And they are your teachers. They are the ones there who've been overseeing your whole life anyway. And it's a couple, it's a man and a woman. It's called Abba and Ima, or called Saba and Savta. It's a hard part of your own soul, or however we want to see it. These are teachers that we need to teach. We need to learn from them. So when we get there, we actually open ourselves up to that new level of consciousness that they want to give us. And if you would like put it in a parable form, very, very simple, they say, "How was it getting up?" And you say, "Oh, it's really hard. There was a dog there, and there was a fence, and there was rocks, and I fell, and I hurt myself, and there were people there that made trouble for me on the way up, and I didn't feel good about it." They say, yeah, we know. And you say some more, and they say, yeah, we know. And you say, "Well, wait a second, what do you mean you know?" Because, of course, you're very innocent. You don't know who you're in whose presence you're standing. And they say, "Well, that was us." And really, the us maybe shouldn't take it away from the fact that it was Hashem. It's not just us. It's not a man and a woman. It's a higher level, but it's also good to see it in terms of a couple. The point is, yes, that was us. We were there with you. We know what you went through. I'm with you in your pain. But I'm helping you if you're only aware of me, because even though I'm dressing up and I'm disguising myself, but it's me. And if you know that, then it's higher up in Shemayim. Because Dafka, precisely to see through the disguises in the lower percent down here. So I just wanted to give an example of the idea of clarity, of knowing that everything is in Hashem's hands. Then you go down, and then the next day or in the next hour, I've had experiences learning all night. I was like unbelievable. In the old days, I had a consistent learning on Thursday nights with two of my dearest friends, Rav Shabtai Teicher, Alav Shalom, and Rav Eliyahu Sukkot, Lahavdil ben Chaim ben Metim. So we would learn on Thursday nights. It was like, wow, we were learning Zohar. What a special privilege this was. It was back in the 70s. And one night, I was in Geula. One morning, I was in Geula after learning the whole time. And it was a Friday morning. It was hot, and the bus wasn't coming. And I was really getting tired. I'd been up all night and getting upset. And I'm just trying to say how the juxtaposition, right? Of course you were up all night, but now how do you deal with this? And we fail very often. So, but knowing how Hashem hides is a big secret. Okay, so what I want to do and what I want to share with you today is this amazing shift in this book in chapter 10 of how did Hashem make this universe? How did Hashem make this universe? I would ask you, please, to sit on this side, even though it's not a huge difference, right? Or switch chairs or whatever. Forgive me.
I'm taking notes now.
Okay. Who didn't get a printout? Okay, so here's a few more for anybody who's on it. Also, that's also here. But the pages that I gave out,
Pages?
it's a 3-page set. Yeah. the Xerox place put the thing at the bottom instead of the top. So basically, let's just read the beginning of page 78. We've discussed the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut as being the basic ingredients that God used in creating the worlds. And what he's done in chapter 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 is he's gone through how the Sfirot work, what each one of the qualities of each one, of Keter and of Chochmah and Bina, and of Chesed, Gevurah, and Tiferet, and Netzach, and Yesod, and then Malchut. Really, it's a masterful thing. We tried to do some justice to it during the Omer. The main thing is to read it on your own, and to then, if the next few weeks, to read these chapters 10, 11, and 12, and that way we won't have to read as much as talk out what we are learning. And I've also prepared you text here that I've done since over the last 20 years, where I add sources based on what came out of inner space. So the more homework you do, the more you'll get out of this. So again, we've discussed the 10 Sfirot of Atzilut, that there is such a thing, that there's such a thing called Atzilut, which means the world of nearness, of closeness, a world of divinity, of Elokut. We don't really have a good sense of what it is yet. We're going to see how Atzilut came into existence. And that as it's the inner level of existence, even down here, is an Atzilutic existence, even within ourselves. Even our bodies are made in such a way that there are deeper and deeper levels of systems where things are much, much more unified. There's the nervous system for sure, but there's even a system that a dear friend of mine told me is called the collagens, and it's not even just electrical speed communication between cells at that level. There's no need to communicate. They're all so connected. It's like a spiritual body that science is already coming to that edge of admitting that there's a level of subtle body within us, which is oceanic. It's so completely unified. So Atzilut it can be found even within our world and certainly within ourselves. The 10 Sfirot of Atzilut as being the basic ingredients that God used in creating the Olamot. Our next step is to explore the process involved in the creation of the Sfirot themselves. This process consisted of 3 stages which are alluded to in the Torah and the story of Yaakov and Lavan. And he goes through a very, you really have to read this closely. And he's bringing here from the Etz Chaim of the Ari, and he's explaining the story of Yaakov and the way he took some sheep from Lavan and said, I'll give you back your sheep. I just need them for a while to create a new genetic strain. You can have your sheep, and I'll take only the ones that have certain markings on them. Total incredible integrity that Yaakov represents. And on a deeper level of a certain knowledge of genetics, and on a deeper level of his connection to Atzilut, that he was working with a spiritual causality of how to bring about something and make it manifest in the physical world. So here you see, after working for Lavan as a shepherd for 20 years, Yaakov was ready to return home to the land of Israel with his entire household. In payment for his service, it was agreed upon that he would take only those sheep and goats which were banded, spotted, or streaked. We'll see the words for them in English, which is in Hebrew, which is nikudim, akudim, nikudim, beberudim. He separated his animals from Laban's by a distance of 3 days, and within a miraculously short time, he had built up a sizable flock of his own. So banded is akudim. Such animals had bands around their legs. The rest of their body was white. They appeared to be bound. In Hebrew, akud means bound. Akedat Yitzhak means the binding of Isaac. Spotted is nikudim. Such animals had black spots on a white body. Streaked is brudim. This is the precise opposite of the above. The animal has a black body with white streaks, giving the appearance of hail. Barad in Hebrew is hail. So really, he took on a wonderfully meaty subject to start like this. And the Ari took on an amazing job to explain this in terms of the creation of the world, that at a certain level in the creation process, there's a world called Olam HaAkudim, the world of unified sphirot. They're so unified that it's called 10 lights in one vessel. It reminded me very much of what the Midrash says, that Hashem spoke all 10 commandments on Sinai in one word. 10 in one. And the Midrash itself says something that the mouth cannot speak nor the ear can hear. 10 statements in one sound. So it's very suggestive of 10 vessels in one light and 10 lights in one vessel. You see that at the top of 79.
How does the vessel hold those 10 lights?
Right. Because again, the idea is the higher up you go, the more unified everything is. This is now just immediately before there's going to be a breakdown into 10 vessels.
Yeah.
But this very situation here, you can see at the top of 79.
Does that mean it's stable or unstable?
It's very stable. But it's going to be forcibly broken in order to create a lower dimensionality. So he says, what Jacob saw was that when the Sephirot were first created, they existed as a paradoxical 10 lights in one vessel. This is the first level, the Akudim, the banded, where all of the Sephirot are completely undifferentiated and bound together. Now, again, in English, this is really meant to be learned in Hebrew. This is a thing where you close your eyes sometimes and you try and imagine or visualize what you're seeing here. As I'm giving over, for instance, the idea that Hashem speaks 10 statements in one sound. So it's just another metaphor for the same thing. That there's something which is so unified, it hasn't gone to the next level yet, which is going to be where it's forcibly broken down into 10. Next, these lights were divided into 10 distinct entities. In this state, they existed as simple nikudim, spots or points. This is the beginning of it. I'll tell you as we go, as we stop reading and go out of the page and go into ideas, you'll understand more. That's why it's much, much more helpful to know what we're going to do and to be involved in the book before you come to the class. But the idea here of nikudim is not just spots or points. It's the possibility of individuality. Up at the higher level, we are so connected to Hashem. We are so one in Hashem, we don't have individuality. Stage 1, and there are many examples of this, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Stage 1 here is being called Akudim. It also could be called Abraham. Yitzhak could be called stage 2. And Yaakov could be called stage 3. Pesach could be called stage 1, which is Nisan, which is the month of miracles and being lifted up like sheep. And then Iyar is the Omer period. It's a much more difficult period. Stage 2, separation, differentiation, having to go on my own, having to feel alone, having to feel abandoned, the possibility of being a baby being separated from mommy, right? That's what the stage 2 is always going to be, the existential situation of being alone. But I'm not really alone. It only has to seem like I'm alone. But I don't discover that until I get to stage 3, where I come back into unity at a higher level. but I had to work for it. During stage 2 is always the stage where I have to do something. So Gan Eden is stage 1, history is stage 2, and the Messianic age is stage 3. So there's a lot of examples of how stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 can be an explanation for a lot of stuff, and that why even those of us who have gotten and tasted stage 3, basically we live in stage 2. Olam Hazeh is a stage 2 separate differentiation. You got to work for it, school of hard knocks, etc. So he calls it here just spots or points, but he has to stay very focused in what he's saying. So that's why he's not going off like I am. Okay.
Isn't stage 1 and stage 3 basically the same?
Aha. Excellent question. So it could be imagined as stage 1 is up here, and you're going down into all of this is stage 2, and you come back. Oh my goodness, I came back to stage 3, and really it's really stage 1. But there's a qualitative difference. How will we articulate the qualitative difference?
So what happens to us in the process that lets us relate to stage 3 in a different way? I would assume there's a process we go through that makes stage 3 different.
It makes it qualitatively totally
but
different.
Objectively, it's the same. It's all about us and our relationship to it, no?
I guess you could say that. Yeah. Spiral. But here right now we need what's the difference between stage 1 and stage 3? Is simply said, it's that I cannot maintain stage 1 because it's not up to me, because I don't exist per se. But stage 3 is now it's mine. I've kaniti it, I've acquired it. This is Ramchal in the beginning of Derech Hashem. The whole reason of stage 2 is that he wants us to acquire our own eternity. The gift that he wants to give us is he can't give us the gift, because if he gives us the gift, it'll never be ours. He has to give us the possibility of working and attaining the gift. And then when we get it, he says, now it's yours. And we can say, but everything I did was with your help. Quantitatively, it could be that I did a lot for you, Hashem says. I was behind the scenes. I gave you certain abilities, etc. But I'm so proud of you and I'm so happy with you that you did it. And you can say, but I didn't do anything. Compared to what we're going to get as a result of what we've done, the comparison is so, the disparity is so great. Like, we didn't do anything. And on the contrary, like, we screwed up so many times. Hashem says, no, I know what you went through. It's precious to me because you did it. That's the difference between a baby in the womb. A baby in the womb is stage 1. Being born is stage 2. Stage 3. Adulthood, where I'm a baby again because I'm pure, I'm innocent, but it's not the same because now I've gone through stage 2. So if I haven't done it already, the definition of stage 3 is no longer just undifferentiated consciousness, it's unified consciousness, and it's eternal individual consciousness, nitzchi, netzach, but individual, which is what I did not have in stage 1. And even the Adam HaRishon did not have self in Gan Eden. He had connection with all of creation. So it fits a lot of these different systems of 3 fit, and they all help. They all shed light one on the other. Adam HaRishon was lacking one thing in Gan Eden, and then he lost that. He lost what he had, and he got what he wanted, but he's outside of Gan Eden. He had connection to all of creation. The Gemara in Yevamot says that he could go into any animal he wanted. He could go into any flower. He had total interconnection creation. That's how he could call things names, right? And then, but me. I want to be me. We had literally in the Torah like that, but I don't have a sense of who I am. So I'm willing to do something. I want to do something which is going to allow me that I should be able to have a part in this. He wasn't willing to just wait till Shabbat and do what he was told to do, and then the light would come in automatically. He wanted to do something that I want to do it, in which case I'm going to jump the gun and do it before Shabbat. No, Hashem said, don't do it before Shabbat. That's not what I want from you. But I have to do it. I'm going to ruin it, and I'm going to make it fix, and I'm going to fix it, and I'm going to do it to praise you and to honor you even more. Adam, don't go there. You won't even know what you were like beforehand after it happens. Once you're losing this, you won't even know what it was like anymore to have this. This is incredible. This is a tremendous sense of unity with all of creation and with me. Just let it happen. So there's a Miktab Eliyahu on this. There's a lot of important sources on the definition, the subtle thing of, did he do the worst thing in the world, or but his intentions were good, right? At any rate, he had stage one, but he, in his particular way, he had access to Etz Chaim, but he wanted to do Etz Dat first. And if he would have done Etz Chaim first, if. The point is that he loses it, and now he's outside, so to speak, of Gan Eden. The curtain falls, the end of Act 1, Scene 1, and he has himself, but he doesn't have what he had before. And the rest of the Torah is about how to get back in with yourself, with self. And that's why I say that it'll be eternal individual existence, the gift that Hashem wants to give us, and not just going back into some undifferentiated state. So these are like really important ideas to me. I hope that they're meaningful to you also. And in a way, it helps me, because to give over just the reading of the book, it has to be filled in with a little bit of, of our own lives here. But we are going back in the book. On page 79, second, or however you want to look at it, paragraph down from the top. Next, these lights were divided into 10 distinct entities. In this state, they existed as simple nikudim. This is a state where the primitive sphirot could receive God's light, and they are thus called vessels, kelim. They could not interact or give anything to each other, however, and therefore could not hold the light. Now, there's a lot he's trying to say here in these few sentences, and I'll try and explain it. Instead, they were overwhelmed by the light, and they shattered. And this is therefore known as the shvirat kelim, the breaking or the shattering of the vessels. He's going to go back and he's going to explain it. He just wants to get to stage 3 already, and then go over it and go through each one more thoroughly. So we are just going to go with him for a moment. After having been shattered, the vessels were then rectified and rebuilt. Now, there's like hardly anywhere to stand on this. Like, what are vessels here? What kind of vessels are you talking about? And what's this shattering? In my book on the Ketoret, I write about the Big Bang and many supernova explosions that happened after the Big Bang, and how the world, the stars coalesced together, and they were very hot, and they were like furnaces inside, very, very hot, hotter than the sun. And then they'd explode again, and there were many explosions, and then coalescences, until after many, 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 many stages, there are certain elements that came about in the stars, and one of them called carbon. Now, carbon is essential for life as we know it, and carbon was not there with the helium and the hydrogen in the first Big Bang. It's only after many, 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 many stages down. So it's in a sense, it's a physical parallel, we can't say that it's a complete parallel, because here we, through the Ari and the Zohar, are still talking about a spiritual process. But on the other hand, it seems like that matter, if you look at the temperatures that are being spoken about in the Big Bang, there's no physical matter. So it's very interesting. The temperatures are so hot that might be called in mathematics a mathematical abstraction. There's no matter. So that's interesting. There's no matter here, and there's no matter yet in the spiritual. So you have perhaps a interesting parallel here. Whatever the case, you get down to carbon in the physical model, is you get down to the possibility of, after many, many shvirot kelim, shattering of vessels, you get down to the possibility of a physical world. So that really, in a sense, what came to me, and I wrote a book about this called Dedicated to Mashiach ben Yosef and Mashiach ben David, is that what the Ari was given, specifically the Ari in the 1500s, was the spiritual teaching that when Mashiach would come, would be put together with physics and quantum physics and relativity, and that would be the messianic, the totality of both of them. It's a total system that got broken up into physical and spiritual. But Hashem is a physicist and the metaphysicist. So Mashiach will be the master of that confluence, of that bringing that together. See, he'll have to know physics. He'll have to know the latest theories of physics and clarify what the actual system is, and then show what the Ari was talking about in spiritual terms, because he didn't have the language of physics, is exactly what we're talking about in physics. The higher up you go, there's no physical matter. The lower down you go, then there's only physical matter. But if you now heat the matter up, one book calls matter frozen energy. So if you unfreeze frozen energy, which is what they're trying to do with these big things in Europe, $1 billion accelerators, is to heat matter up to the temperatures that existed in the early few minutes and perhaps seconds of the early universe, and see what happens. They're really playing with fire, because it could set off a chain reaction, but they are scientists, and therefore they have to do this. They can't. It doesn't matter. Like, wow, we're on the verge of understanding what matter is about. Okay. I call it Asavian science, Asavian knowledge. Yaakov Avinu doesn't have. I make fun of them in my book, Spiritual Technology, that they say in order to get, when the universe is going to come to an end, that we have to find a way of transferring all of us, or at least the information that all of us carry, into nano level and get it through a wormhole to the next universe on the other side, so that we can survive the destruction of the universe. But in the Ari and Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and Moshe Rabbeinu and Avraham Avinu and all, and Sarah and all of them, they just went up because they had the secret of spiritual interdimensionality. They didn't have to do billions of dollars of technology to get to the other side of life and then to come back and to tell us what it's like. But Esav wants to build and build and build and build. And then there's this incredible article that I bring that this author writes, that we want to get everything through a wormhole, but there's only one thing he says, and he doesn't even understand the joke that he's saying. There's only one problem, is that you can't survive going through a wormhole. Of course you can't. You have to die. You have to die. Exactly. You have to die to this energy form and transform, which is what our Torah is all about. So, forgive the going off subject, but it's as Rabbi Nachman said, there'd be a certain point up to which that all we could do, and we would hear those who didn't believe in the Torah would have to go into a state of emunah, which is sleep, the bechina of sleep. We wouldn't be able to answer them, but now we have answers. All right, the materialist period is over. We're now coming to the super spiritual period of history. The world still doesn't know what we have. We don't even know what we have. But the time is coming where we go on the offensive to tell what reality really is. So we have to learn this up to the best of our ability, and whoever can learn together with a few physics books and start to put together a world view. This is important. This is an important part of your Torah learning. To go on the offensive, in other words, to give a positive message of what creation is really about, how it came about, where it's going, what are we here for, right? So that people can understand it. There'll be a universal language that we can speak and people understand and say, wow, where have you been all this time? We've been looking for you. Well, we've been here. The Jewish people have been here. We just didn't know how to communicate until now. Now we're being given the language to do so. So third stage, forgive me for the diversion. After having been shattered, the vessels were then rectified and rebuilt. This is the final stage, brudim, streaked, where the sphirot are connected as partsufim. Now, partsuf is similar to the word siruf. It's a little slight rearranging of the letters. Litzaref is to combine. A welder is also a mitzaref. A partsuf is usually translated a face or a persona. We'll find out as we go, if you're here with us as we continue on here and finally get to chapter 11, is that a partsuf is an amazing concept. And just to put it in a nutshell, is that together we are a partsuf. Together Am Yisrael is a partsuf. Individually we're all a sphira. Inside of you, you have a whole world. And therefore you in yourself are a partsuf. But relative to others, you become a specific sphira and you become a part of a greater partsuf. Our job is to build partsufim. We mentioned it once about Shabbos, about Shabbat. The laws of Shabbat is to make a Reshut Yachid. Is to get together and to create a domain of the one. And that specifically involves all of us, each one of us with our different qualities and our different tchunot, in getting together and creating a union, creating a unity, creating a vessel that can hold a greater light. So the Ari and the Rashash, they explain really beautifully, not for now, but they beautifully how the methodology of getting from a broken world to a world that's rebuilt in such a way that it can receive, handle, hold, and embody the complete light of Hashem. And it's called the secret of Sod HaPartsuf, the concept of Partsuf. So maybe enough for now, even though, of course, I understand that it's not totally satisfying. But Partsuf is a wonderful, important thing. I found a source in Rabbeinu Yonah in Shari Tshuva. I could perhaps share it with you, God willing, next week, of what I believe the Ari himself saw it and understood. Because the Ari was given divine knowledge. They say he was being taught by Eliyahu Hanavi. But besides that, he had incredible teachers. And also he was very well read by a young age. So it just strikes me that you can see something sometimes and you have this intuitive flash that this is exactly what might have been part of the Ari's understanding when he was coming to his understanding of what Partsuf is. And my understanding is in my own modern language is that you go into Machane Yehuda Shuk and one guy is yelling, Malafafonim, Shnei Shekel. And the other guy says, Malafafonim, Shekel V'Chetzi. Okay, they're fighting. It's called the Reshut Rabim. They're fighting because each one wants to get your business. But behind the scenes, they're part of a union, an agudah. And they're really, behind the scenes, they're all connected with each other. They're not fighting each other. They're not competing with each other. So the behind the scenes is what's really interesting to us.
Spiritual quartet.
Yeah. Social, in other words, societal unity. How a society is supposed to work instead of one against the other. So God willing, I'll bring that in next week. A little bit more here. Partsufim he defines here as archetypal personas, like we mentioned before, Abba and Ima, mother and father, an archetypal persona, or spiritual parallels to the human body. Because in the human body, there's right brain, left brain. Our Chochma and Bina, also called Abba and Ima. The difference between Chochma on the right side and Bina on the left side, and Abba on the right side and Ima on the left side, is that Abba has a full complement of 10 sfirot. That's why it's called a pratsuf as opposed to a sphera. We'll see again, just like I said to Jonathan before, that it could be that everything is relative to what you're talking about. If you're talking about this room as a complete pratsuf, so that each one of us are sphirot. But we ourselves are our home here as part of many homes within a neighborhood. So we're a sphera within a larger pratsuf. Again, larger, you can go large, you can go very small into the microscopic world. It's always going to be that, what are you saying relative to the thing itself in its own inner construction, or the thing itself relative to that which is outside of it? I have written about it, trying to explain. Again, that's where I'm getting my stuff, is having worked with the ideas. It's a smooth, liquid, fluidic system. So you just don't get stuck on anything. If you have any questions, certainly I'll try and answer. But if you don't understand, so it's understandable, and that you give it time. And then he says, this is the level that's usually referred to as the universe of Atzilut. That's an amazing statement, because we don't understand these things, but for somebody who does, to say that Atzilut itself has gone through a transformational process of breakage down from an original unity and then a reformation, it's so interesting, which comes into that the world is based on an original unity that was broken down purposefully and then reestablished. What is this? Does that tell you anything about your life? Why Hashem would set into the actual fabric of creation a underlying unity that's then broken down and then reformed into a unity.
It's just like the 3 stages you shared with us.
Yeah.
Parallel stuff.
It's the dance of the Scorpio.
Okay. Tell me more.
And I studied a long time ago, but the way you said it's the Scorpio.
Before he kills his mate?
Yes.
What? Yeah, go ahead.
It's always, life, death, life, death. It's he attacks, and then there is a living things coming out. Even though he killed his mate, there's still a baby coming.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never really studied it. Okay.
Hashem can pull the carpet off of you. Yes, and you have to start all over again. It's something
very
similar
nice.
to that.
Very nice.
Yeah.
The first pasuk in Tehillim, Ashrei Ha'ish, Asher lo halach ba'atzat resha'im. That's the third thing. This one is he did lo halach, lo amad, v'lo yashav. It's a downward spiral. Lo halach. If you are walking, it's one thing, but if you stand together with somebody who's giving you bad advice, and it's even worse if you sit with them.
Mm-hmm.
What's the second verse? Ki'im b'torat Adonai chevtzo b'torato yehegeh yom v'layla. Rather, his desire is in the Torah of Hashem, the Torah of Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and in this he meditates day and night. So we see from this that Tehillim is the book of the Baal Tshuva, is the book of the person who's gone down from walking to standing to sitting in the Moshav Leitzim and having gone, and now he wants to come back. So the second verse of Tehillim is the beginning of the comeback. That's who David HaMelech is. So that it's predicated on the idea that it's a world where en tzaddik ba'aretz asher ya'aseto v'lo yicheta. It's a verse that appears in the Tanakh, I think twice. Sometimes I don't find the second one, but whatever the case, there's no such thing as a person who's completely righteous who has not done some wrong. Meaning to say, from our point of view, within the context of this class, Hashem made it. It might seem unfair. This has tremendous ramifications. The Torah of the Ari is so yofi, but it takes a few years to do it all. but you can jump ahead sometimes and see where it's all going. So if you want to interact on that level, but where this all goes is the reason he made a broken world is that we can be part of the fixing, and therefore even my own life. And so it's a tremendous story of hope. Rabbi Nachman didn't get his Gewalt en Yush Klau. He didn't get it out of nowhere. He got it from the deepest teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, which goes back to the Ari, which goes back to the deepest teachings that go back to Adam Rishon. The way Hashem worked this world is, even if you've gone off a million times, you can always come back. And you can come back even higher than if you had not gone. You must not go off on purpose. But if you did go off, if you weren't conscious, if you weren't aware, and now you want to become aware, and now you want to work your way back, this is what Hashem considers precious. And this is all hinted at here in this process of stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3. There are souls are stage 1 in Shemaim. Stage 2, we come down to this world. And stage 3 is we attain something in this world that cannot be attained in Shemaim.
So the process of stage 1, stage 2, and stage 3, you can parallel that to the world, right? Yeah, you have like a Tziyut and B'yah and Asiyah and B'tziyah Asiyah.
I didn't do that yet.
I'm just trying to understand. Is that the same? Because the process of unity and then
Breakdown of unity.
Breakdown of unity. It sounds like a historical thing, but then, like the way I've learned about the soul, the levels of the soul. The soul isn't really cut into. It's just the different names given to the soul on different stages, and all those stages are his. So I don't know. I'm saying, like, how does that? Is the original unity still existing?
Yefeh. Is stage 1 still existing? Even
I'm saying,
while
like,
there's stage 2.
On a higher level, stage 1 is still existing.
I really believe it is.
It's all simultaneous, right?
Yeah, but let's fine tune it. What do we mean? That we'll learn here as we progress through chapter 10 that when something is said to die, if something is said it just died, actually I bring the source for it. Let me just show you on my pages here. Is it in this? Right. I have a long version and a short one. What I gave you is the three-pager out of a longer thing. The point is that he brings here at one point that this idea that dying is just going down to a lower level. If you remember where that is, you can find it in the book, and then I'll find it here for you.
But every time he says in the Torah dying is going to a lower level, not actually dying.
Yes. It's a very interesting concept. Yes, that's the example that's brought. So it says here it's a note. It's on the bottom of 80, and in the pages that I gave you, it is. It's just before what I gave you. I'm sorry, so I'll read it to you. It's like this. We're going to learn in chapter 10. He gives 2 major examples, then he gives actually a third of called the shattering of the vessels. The first one he gives is called the death of the kings of Edom. The death of the kings of Edom. That's on page 80. The second one he gives is the creation and destruction of the worlds. The Midrash says that Hashem bara olamot vechrivan, bara olamot vechrivan. Created and destroyed, which means that it was why the Midrash actually says it twice in order to indicate it was over and over again. We're going to go into why he did that, what's going on here. So these are two metaphors. He himself says at the end on page 80, says it at the bottom of 80, the dissolution and descent of a spiritual vessel is thus explained mainly through two allegories, two metaphors. In one case, it's seen as shattering, in another as dying. Kings that died and vessels that shattered. It's important to note, therefore, that the death of the kings of Edom refers to the same event, but with a different allegory. In both cases, it's a situation of confusion and chaos leading to complete breakdown and loss of identity. And probably the footnote, whatever. So I'm just going to read you what I have here. It says here, and they are metaphors. For as the Ari explains, in other words, there are two allegories, two metaphors. For as the Ari explains, the spiritual dimension is governed by a law of conservation, similar to that which we see in the physical universe. According to this principle, something that was created in the spiritual realm cannot cease to exist. So that's connection with what Yonatan says, is that stage one is still happening. It doesn't cease to exist once stage two starts. That's my point of reference here. Then I go on. Thus, the shattering of the vessels and the death of the kings means that these extremely high and volatile lights descended from their true level into a lower level of existence. Indeed, it was through the shattering that the Creator brought about lower and lower levels of creation in which his light was successively more and more hidden. And you don't have it. And I say that the example that's brought in the Zohar is a long time past and the king of Egypt died. And the Zohar says, Denachta midarga kadma'a dahava kam be. He descended from a previous status that he had previously had. Nachta midarga, dying, not literally, dying means going down. So the higher level still exists, and it's there for us when we go back to it. In the meantime, we lose access to it. That's the trauma here. As I go down, the generations come down, and we lose access to what preceded us. The Nevi'im were mamash crying, Hashem, how are they going to understand what we're saying? They're not even going to be able to conceptualize the incredible things that you're telling us. Hashem says, if a person works backwards, even further down in history, down all the way into the feet and the toenails, works backwards, and they really take your words seriously, through your words, through the words of the Torah, they'll be able to re-access those higher levels. But it'll be a lot of work because the levels are there. It's just that we'll have loss of easy access. Anyway, so I have a lot to share. Maybe, you see, usually I don't have this at home. It's crazy. It's like there's a disconnect here. Yeah, there's a disconnect here. Although they're not as clearly written as they should be. There's a disconnect. I don't have all these emails. I only have like 7 of you, 5 of you. And when I want to send something out, right, it really helps me. So I need your emails.
So you can write again, and you can take one page with you.
Well, I don't want to go through it. I can definitely photograph it, and hopefully most of them I'll be able to read. But the point is that it really helps to be able and to take this class and to utilize it, and I can grow from it, and you can grow from it.
Yeah, how does the 3 stages work in the going back and accessing higher things? But how does that because the concept of Gilgul? So we have to do that multiple times for our soul to be able to access that higher wisdom. We seem to have to go through the stage multiple times. We have this concept.
No, there's never any. I don't know if I can answer you. I mean, I like the subject, but right now I don't want to bring it in. Let me just look with you at what I've sent you, at what I have given you today. we're going to be learning more about this, and it's something that stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 is very helpful for me, and I hope it will be helpful for you. The top, this is read from the top. According to the Zohar, the kings of Edom. We didn't look at this. We didn't look at the source yet. The source yet is on page 80. The breaking of the vessels is also alluded to in the Torah in the account of the kings of Edom. We mentioned them now 2-3 times. So the first thing he does is with Yaakov and the sheep, and you can read more about that. The second one he does is this one with the kings of Edom, and then he finally says that it's all hinted at in Bereshit. And so here I'm going to bring you in these pages here, mostly the thing about the kings. Very interesting thing that basically what the Torah is telling us is that there are these 8 kings. The first 7, all the Torah says about them is that they reigned and they died. They reigned and they died. It fills in with a lot of other interesting information, what the name of the city was, the name of the country. And only in the last case, the 8th king, do they tell us that he had a wife and does not mention that he died. So what we learn from this, he himself says, like he himself summarizes at the bottom of page 80, the main point that Torah seems to be making about these kings, that they ruled and died in succession, one after the other. This applies to all of them except the last, Hadar, whose death is not mentioned here. Perhaps, as we shall see, this is related to the fact that he is the only king whose wife is mentioned. He was married. The other ones weren't. There's a partsuf here. There's something of a tikkun. Stage 8 is above the problems of the 7. In the meantime, the death of each of these kings alludes to the shattering of the original vessels and their falling to a lower level. So now coming back to what I just gave you. According to the Zohar, these kings of Edom are the very same universes referred to in the Midrash that were created and destroyed before our present creation. I admit it's a little bit out of order here, and for the 7-page thing that I want to send to you is more whole and leads up properly to this. But I'm kind of a kid at these things, and I get excited. The creation and destruction of universes that the Midrash mentions, it is not in front of you here. Why would Hashem do that? So I'll try and answer that in the next 5 minutes. So we have an instance here in the Idra Rabbah, which is a very advanced book of the Zohar, where it says, we have learned in the Sifra Tzniut, it itself is Zohar quoting another previous or prior book of the Zohar. It says, before Atika da Atikim, before the ancient of the ancients, i.e. the basic infrastructure upon which all the lower universes depend, which is also called Adam Kadmon. Before, in other words, Adam Kadmon was fully rectified, he, Hashem, God, Ein Sof, built kings, he gathered kings, he engraved kings, and he measured kings. In Aramaic, Bani Malchin, Kanes Malchin, Galif Malchin, Misha'er Malchin. The main thing is that there are 4 things. They did not exist for long, however. The Lahavu Mitkaime, for he hurled them downwards. Ad the Dachelon, until he hurled them downwards. While he stored above something for the future, which says V'atznat lon lebatar zimna. Now, so the Aramaic is using pronouns. So I'm filling in here in the English that something was thrown down, but something was held above. It's not clear in the Aramaic if it's the same thing or not. But it's clearly, according to the Ari, one thing is thrown down and one thing is held up. And it's 2 different things. And we'll see that the way this teaching unfolds, if I can become grounded while I'm teaching it, sharing it with you, you get a lot more. I just have to figure out, the best way to share this. But a lot of it'd be very helpful if you'll actually read certain things that I'll send you. At any rate, they did not exist for long, however, for he hurled them downwards, while he stored above the lights that caused them to shatter for a future time. The image here is that there were a system, there were a setup of vessels at a lower level waiting, and some light came down, and they were lined up in a single column, and the one at the top tried to receive all the light. The light hit the vessel shattered, the major part of the light recoiled up, sparks of the light went downwards with parts of the broken parts of the vessels down. And the next one also, the major part of the light hits and recoils, the sparks go down with the broken pieces. 7 shatterings. It's not obvious from the Zohar. You needed the Ari because the Zohar is purposely hiding and making it difficult and making it almost incomprehensible. Without the Ari, there would be no way to understand this. This is the meaning of the verse that we have in Psalms. These are the kings who, in the Torah, these are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned among the children of Israel. So the children of Israel represent the tikkun process, the coming together as a partsuf, as a model for what mankind can be and will have to be in the future, for maintaining the becoming a vessel for the light of Hashem, a vessel that has structural integrity, as opposed to the kings that preceded. And there's an intimation in all of the sources that there was a selfishness on the part of each of the kings beforehand. And because each one wanted to see all of the light, that's why it shattered. So there's all kinds of things going on here. The land of Edom, from Adom, red, refers to the place where all judgments exist. That's why they're the kings of Edom. As a result, none of them continue to exist for long. So, in the meantime, take this, look at it, write to me, or just wait until next week, but please come. There's I think a wealth here of beautiful meaning for what the Ari gives us. Remember, I think I shared it with you, the Baal Shem Tov took from the Ari how to explain the human soul. The Ramchal took from the Ari how to explain history. The Rashash took from the Ari how to explain the spiritual universes and their totality. The Gaon and the Vilna, similar to the Ramchal, took history. So it's Olam Shana Nefesh. Each one took an aspect of the Ari's teachings. Our generation is to join the Gra and the Ramchal and the Baal Shem Tov and all of the others and the Orach Chaim and all of them into one great teaching that the Ari gave. Because he was just a channel for that which came before him. And it's time that we can get this, and you don't have to be a Kabbalist. You have to be able to learn some terminology. But mostly what you get from this, if you break it down into your own language, and my language is stage 1, stage 2, we're all going for stage 3, and it's worth getting there. And we can have moments of stage 3 in our lives, and that makes everything worth it. I bless us, I bless you, bless myself, bless all of us, that we should have stage 3 moments.
Amen.
And that we should hope, and an incredible, positive hope that Hashem is with us, even in the negative situations that we've gone through, and to see His presence, and that means that's the whole key of changing mar lematok, a bitter to sweet, of building from brokenness, and be part of this incredible process that Hashem is giving us the privilege of being part of. Thank you.
Excitement. You were saying before that there's a stage that we have to get into to start teaching people what the positive, you said to give the positive meaning of what the universe is all about.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like elevating people. But if there's an inverse relationship, people are so low, everybody's getting lower. So it becomes much more challenging almost to reach people because of where they're seeking to. But you're saying that they can have so much nice point of elevation, but to even get to them, I feel like, even here 30 years down the road is so much, the things that used to appeal to us, about, like.
Yeah, good point. Pass around the box and the thing. So there's an idea I heard many years ago. Old ideas are the best. They go with you and they give you new meaning. That Mashiach will be able to relate to every single one of us, every rung on the ladder, and Hashem obviously also. In the meantime, there's somebody up here who can relate only to that which is a little bit lower, but that which is lower than that he can or she can. So that means there's a work here for the person who is here to work with this one and work with this one and work with this one. Now, our purpose here is that Hashem is holding back his light in order that each one of us become responsible with this to connect with anybody we can connect with. And when Mashiach comes, that'll be over. So that's why he's holding it back, because he still wants us to be involved. That's why I maybe would like to say it better, but that's the basic idea is that once the water starts to flow, it'll flow down from the top to the bottom. We'll all be included in it. Until then, it's the job of each one of us to do the best we can. And he will give us the wherewithal. There's working with imagery now recently, and people who are HDD and who can't concentrate, they can be the best ones who really can get spiritual work more than somebody who's book learned. So whatever, Hashem has a plan that everybody will be able to be part of this rectification process, and we have to just pray. We just got the Torah 2 days ago, 3 days ago. We have to pray that the Torah that we've received is going to become much more than we realize it is right now. It's a time release capsule. We just got the capsule. The time release is going to now start activating, and we're going to say, "Whoa! Thank you so much." Well, let's start thanking him now. There's a Torah coming down. Let's catch it.
It seems to be that people who want to catch it can catch it now, but the people that aren't tuned in, it's like the channel that have to change their radio channel. So,
okay, I hear you. There's a frustration in a certain way.
it took long to change.
And I have some. There's a what's. It's true that people are being paid to come to Israel, and less are coming, and the whole tshuva thing.
We are so perplexed right now. We feel like we need to study the whole inyan because there's so.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
So
these are the things that were working before don't work anymore. People are so far away they don't even understand
it's a different
the language of
anything. Rabbis are saying we have the answers, but they're not asking questions. So the answer to the question, the answer to them is that you're asking that you're not answering the questions that people have. So we have to be able to retune ourselves. Okay, Bezat Hashem, only good things. I learned that from Daniel Katz. He's a very dear friend now. We're working together. So
yeah, that's great to
we'll
hear.
do more. All right. B'simcha. Thank you.